Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the command post. Can y'all hear me? I don't want no problems. Can y'all hear me? Just give me a thumbs up. I had to make sure that the mic was on. Can y'all hear me? Yep. Okay, cool. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. Of course, I'm your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. It's a Saturday, man. First, before we even get into any commander's business, I got to rap with y'all for a second, man. I don't know where y'all at on the map in the U.S., but it's cold as shit outside. And I know where I am, we slated to get about 8 inches roughly of that white. I don't know what's going on. I talked to somebody on the phone the other day, and she was talking about it's going to be minus 25 with the wind chill factor, excuse me. And they supposed to get 2 feet of snow. I don't know where you at on the map, but this pseudo blizzard that we getting on the East Coast, crazy. It's 12 degrees outside of my house right now. 12 degrees. Okay. Like, it's about to start snowing here in about the next 3 hours or so, roughly. And it's not supposed to stop for about 12 hours. So I don't know where y'all at, but you guys just be safe. Please, if you have to leave the house, if you don't have to leave the house, don't leave the house. All right. But if you have to leave the house, please be safe out on those streets, man. It's not a game. It's nasty out there. And I just want everybody to be safe, man. It's cold as shit outside. It's really winter time this year. And I knew we was going to have a severe winter because we had a pretty mild summer. It wasn't super hot outside. And I was like, this probably spells a really cold winter. And yeah, it's been cold as shit. It's been brick city outside. So y'all stay safe. Bundle up if you got to go outside. Don't be out here trying to be He-Man. The lady gave me some advice. It was so cool. I was talking to the lady on the phone, and she was from Massachusetts. Her accent was so thick. And she was like, look, save your back. She said, y'all supposed to be getting a mixture of the soft white and the wet white. So soft white plus wet white equals hard white. And she said, look, pace yourself, bruh. Don't go out there thinking you He-Man trying to shovel that soft white or that hard white and tear your back up. So again, if you're going outside to shovel the white out of your driveway, make sure that you're smart about it. All right. Again, be safe. More accidents occur on black ice and people going outside slipping on snow or trying to prevent falling when they slip than you could imagine. All right. You throw your back out trying to prevent yourself from falling. Go out there, be careful, be safe. All right. It's crazy out here, man. Anyway, I digress. Somebody said, I'm in Oakland, sunny skies, 67 degrees. Must be nice. Must be nice. I can't relate right now. I can't relate at all. It's cold as shit outside. I know where I am, it's cold as hell. Anyway. Yeah, Raymond, she was wicked smart. She was wicked smart. That's exactly how she sounded. I thought about The Departed. I swear, that conversation was so awesome. She was so nice, but all I could focus on was her accent. It was so thick. She was wicked smart. It was awesome, bro. It was awesome. Anyway, let's get to a few topics at hand. So I'm gonna tell y'all right now. I look, this is from me to y'all. This is Louie T spitting that hopium, right? Spitting that hopium talk. I'm trying to speak something into existence. I talked to y'all the last time, and I told y'all I'm on the run right now, as you can see. So the consistency in which these videos are coming out are going to be hit or miss, right? I got a little bit of time, so I got to come kick it with y'all, right? But haven't had a lot of time. So things have been, matriculating and coming out here and there, bits and pieces, whatnot. And the last time we spoke, I told you that I wanted to make sure that this team wasn't desperate, that they were doing their due diligence. And they had interviewed Al Harris, and I was like, that's interesting. His name hadn't popped up. We had talked about Al Harris a ton, especially at the beginning of this process, but he hadn't cropped up. I guess now that the Bears are eliminated, he's becoming a guy that is in demand. He's interviewing again. I forget where exactly. I just saw his name pop up again as a candidate that would be interviewing elsewhere. So we talked about him interviewing in Green Bay, which makes a ton of sense, former Green Bay Packers defensive back. We talked about him interviewing here in Washington. Makes a lot of sense, Dan Quinn and that connection. But I was hoping, and my fingers are still crossed, and I'm still going to put this out in the atmosphere, that we're waiting on Carl Scott, the defensive backs coach and defensive pass game coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. I've told you guys he's a smart guy. He's brilliant. Again, don't know what he is as a play caller. We would only find out should he get the job. But that intrigue would be phenomenal. That's a guy that I'm really, really interested in at this point. That's the only guy that can move the needle for me. They're going to make a hire. We don't know what that hire is going to be or who that hire is going to be, but they're going to make a hire at some point. But then I saw them, and so let's, as a matter of fact, before we get to our business, let's talk about some family business first. So this is from Nikki Javala. The Cowboys are working to finalize a deal that would make Eagles secondary coach / pass game coordinator Christian Parker their defensive coordinator, a source confirmed. So this was 2 days ago, right? The Cowboys are going to snatch Christian Parker away from the Eagles. He was a name that we had heard circulating in league circles as a guy that was really starting to become a serious candidate on the market as a defensive coordinator, had put in his time, had done a phenomenal job. We know the Eagles secondary has been one of the best over the last 2 years since Vic Fangio got there. I think that also coincides with Parker being their defensive backs coach / defensive pass game coordinator. So the Cowboys took a stab at him. They're going to see if this guy can come in and get their defense going in the right direction. It's an interesting move. We've talked about it. If nothing else, similar to how we feel about David Blau and potentially who we hire as our defensive coordinator, someone who's never done it provides you with intrigue. You don't know what he's going to do. You don't know what his defensive scheme and philosophy is going to consist of. So there's a lot of mystery that's shrouded in that. And there's one of two ways you can go with being in a territory of the unknown. You can either be very excited, anxious, but more so, I think leaning towards the excited portion of the spectrum than the, anxious end of the spectrum. Or you could just be pessimistic and say, he's never done it before. Why should I think he's going to be any different than the guys we've had already here, right? And you could go about it either way. It doesn't really matter. Only thing that matters is that someone's going to get an opportunity and we're going to see what they're able to do with it. And only time is going to be able to reveal whether or not it's the right hire. So we talked about this. 3 out of the 4 teams in the division needed new defensive coordinators. Cowboys have hired theirs. We're waiting for the Giants to see what John Harbaugh does, filling out his cabinet. We know about their offensive coordinator. We don't know what they're going to do for their defensive coordinator. But that's an interesting hire by the Dallas Cowboys, Christian Parker. Really interesting hire. I'm intrigued by it. I'll say that, if nothing else. But this is what I alluded to earlier. This is from Nikki Javala as well. This was yesterday. Another name to add to the Commanders' defensive coordinator search, Steelers defensive coordinator Teryl Austin interviewed for the job per sources. So this one doesn't get me excited. Again, there's not much that can get me excited, as I've already told you numerous times with this defensive coordinator hire. So with Teryl Austin, this particular name, this kind of, for me, sent off a few bells, maybe a few whistles, maybe an alarm or two, because I'm like, are they simply doing due diligence here? Are they exhibiting patience while they wait on Carl Scott? Or are they venturing into the desperate territory? Or is this desperation? Does no one want this job? And I started to think about this because now you've gone through, we're talking about double-digit names now, right? The amount of guys they've interviewed here has now ventured into the double digits territory. And if this job were highly sought after, I don't think you need to interview that many candidates. You know, we have to be real with ourselves about this particular job. One, if you were to list all of the defensive coordinator vacancies that existed when this process started, if you were to list those jobs and put them in the order of the most desirable to the least desirable, we'd be closer to the least desirable, if not at the very bottom, than anywhere close to the top as the most desirable. Our job isn't a good one, right? And I'm not even taking into consideration what we're about to talk about here in a second. I'm just talking about from a talent perspective. You have nothing in Washington. Nothing gets you excited. There's no flashy edge rusher like there is in Vegas in Max Crosby. There's no, super talented defensive tackle like there is in Dallas, right? Or even New York for that matter, where they've got both a flashy edge and a havoc-wreaking defensive tackle. You got none of that here. There's no secondary that gets you excited. There's no building block or foundation if you're a prospective coach looking for an opportunity to be a play caller. There's no draw that brings you to Washington. We don't have one guy that you say, okay, I want to coach that guy. We don't have one, not on the defensive side. Not a single one. So with that said, our job isn't desirable just off the strength of the lack of high-end talent. We don't have any. But the guys that we've interviewed, they probably want the job, right? Like, guys aren't turning down the job because there's no talent here. If you're a guy that wants to be a play caller in this league, or you want to continue to be a play caller like a Patrick Graham, who's already been a play caller, who was one last year, who wants to continue to be one, you want the job. If you're Joe Cullen, who's never been a play caller before, but you want an opportunity to have that distinction, you want the job. So I'm not telling you that nobody wants this job, but we may not want them for the job. They may not be the guys that necessarily get you all excited. If you're the Commanders, when you interviewed them, you didn't necessarily love what they would add to your staff. And so you continue your search. But you start going through all of these candidates, and I start to think to myself, and again, the candidates that we've interviewed, outside of maybe 2 or 3 of them, all of them feel like ho-hum candidates, guys that don't move the needle per se, right? So again, now that you're interviewing a guy like Teryl Austin, and correct me if I'm wrong, and if you're an NFL fan like myself, then you can probably answer this question that I'm about to ask you. It's a very simple one. Have you watched the Steelers defense over the last 3 years? I think that's how long Teryl Austin has been in Pittsburgh, maybe longer, but I think it's been 3 or 4 years. At any point, did you feel like, damn, Teryl Austin is a hell of a defensive coordinator? Did that ever cross your mind? Man, this Steelers defense it's so good. Did that ever cross your mind? Who's the defensive coordinator over there? Did that ever once cross your mind? Because Teryl Austin wasn't good in Detroit. Teryl Austin wasn't good in Pittsburgh. He's been meh at best. I've never once felt like, man, Teryl Austin, that's a hell of a defensive coordinator, man. So now it feels like if you're interviewing, and I've said this to you guys before, DQ loves the blacks. Okay, he loves the blacks. How many black defensive coordinator or candidates has he interviewed in this process? The ratio at this point has to be like 3-1, right? Something of that nature. He loves the blacks, and I love the fact that DQ loves the blacks, right? But at the end of the day, I just want the most qualified, best candidate. I don't care if he's black, white, green, orange, yellow, or purple. I just want the best guy for the job, right? Teryl Austin isn't the best guy for the job. And it makes me feel now like, is there a taboo surrounding this job where prospective coaches, the ones that actually move the needle, the ones that would actually get us excited if they were brought on board, are they shying away from this opportunity? Because, again, nobody wants to go into a situation where there's a potential lame duck coach. And again, DQ has multiple years left on his contract, but he could be fired next year. That's a realistic possibility. If this doesn't go well, we've been here before. We were here just 3 years ago with Ronald Rivera, where he went into that year. Remember when he had to go get Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator? Because who really wanted this job? Nobody wanted that job, knowing that if Ronald didn't absolutely knock it out of the park, grand slam style, not a home run. A home run wasn't going to do. You were down like 6 runs. That was Ronald, right? Going into 2023, he was down like 6 runs in the bottom of the ninth. He needed a grand slam to make it close. All right. One home run, a solo shot wasn't going to do shit, wasn't going to put a dent in anything. You had to come in and absolutely murder it. Now, there's 2 ways to look at it when you're in a situation like that. If I come in and I kill it, hell, I could be the candidate that takes his job, right? I could be the offensive coordinator and they love me and I end up taking over as the head coach next year. Defensive coordinator, same thing. Or we all get fired. And that's how usually guys look at it, because generally when the head coach gets canned, his entire staff usually goes out the door with him. And Teryl Austin, great example. We just interviewed him. Why? Because Mike Tomlin retired essentially, and that left his entire staff in peril. They have to find jobs now. Mike McCarthy is going to be the new Steelers head coach. Good for him, by the way, right? He absolutely loves the Steelers. I think he loves the Pittsburgh Steelers more than his own children. He's at these games. He was at Steelers game. First of all, he grew up, and he'll tell anybody, grew up a massive Steelers fan. He grew up in Pittsburgh. Family lived there their entire lives. He's a diehard Steelers fan, still goes to the games. He'd be up in the press box last couple of years in any game you would look. There's Mike. There's your boy. I just blanked on his name that damn quick. But good for him, man. Good for him getting the job. But ultimately, he's going to want to bring in his own guys. I don't think Teryl Austin is going to be his defensive coordinator. So ultimately, I look at this Teryl Austin interview and I'm like, does anybody actually want this job? Are we desperate? Have we ventured into the desperate territory of this search for a defensive coordinator? Or are we just buying our time? Are we just being patient? I'm still of the mindset that we're being patient and we're just waiting on Carl Scott. That's what I'm telling myself. I'm not going to veer off of that path. I'm just going to continue to speak that into existence. But there is something in the back of my mind that keeps saying to me, Teryl Austin feels desperate, bro. Maybe nobody wants this job. And I don't blame guys for not wanting this job. All right? I don't blame anybody for not wanting this job. This job sucks if we're being honest with each other. It sucks. You got no talent. DQ could be fired after the season. There's a lot that could fundamentally go wrong. And, hitching your wagon to this outfit after what happened last year, after what could happen after another disaster potentially next year with no talent going into this thing, I totally get why, if you got options, this is not one that you absolutely love, right? I get it. I'm not oblivious to that. Neither should you, right? But somebody's going to take the job. But I don't want us to look desperate in the process of trying to find the right guy for the job either, right? Appearances don't really matter, I know, but it's starting to feel like we're kind of teetering on the brink of desperation here. They got to get this right. I know I've said that, and we've said this a billion times this offseason. They got to get this shit right. They got to get this right. Because if they don't, it's going to be nasty. This is going to be a horrible season if they don't get these hires correct. And again, we won't know. And this is a massive offseason because, again, I can't stress to you, Carl Scott, I want him to be the next defensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. He's going to need talent too. I don't care how good of a coach you are. If you don't give this guy some talent to work with, it doesn't matter. He's going to fail too. So the hope is you get the right guy, then you give him the talent that he needs to be successful, and then we go from there. But the first step in this process to rehabilitating this defense is to find the right defensive play caller. That's the first step in the road to recovery for this defense. And right now, I'll be honest, it feels like no one wants this job. So clearly, Carl Scott would want the job if they offered it. Joe Cullen would want this job if they offered it. You know, Teryl Austin would want this job if they offered it to him. Patrick Graham would want, any of the guys that they interviewed would want the job. There's only 32 of these defensive coordinator jobs. Trust me. It's not like we're going to have a hard time filling the vacancy. But you also want the guy to want to be here, and you want that guy to be here. That's the missing piece of this equation. Yet all of those guys that they've interviewed want this job. Because in their minds, I can turn this defense around. But are they the right guy for the job? Do they want that guy as the job? Because if they did, they would have already hired Joe Cullen. It almost feels like, and this feels crazy, it almost feels like they're settling. Whomever they ultimately hire for this position, they're settling. Unless it's Carl Scott, because they haven't had a chance to actually formally interview him, like in person, really get a feel for him. Most of these guys, either they've done this fly-by-night, Zoom interview, or they brought them into the building, or they've met with them in some capacity, and they've said, okay, we'll be in touch. If I really loved the guy and really thought he was the right man for the job, either I'm going to hire him, or I'll go through a couple more interviews and go, man, this is the guy. Or you go through the entire process and then you come back to that guy and you say, hey, I think this is the best of all the candidates that we interviewed. And that could be what they're doing. And that's why I said this could just simply be patience on the part of the Commanders. So it feels desperate to a degree. Guys like Teryl Austin, that feels desperate to me. But at the same token, Carl Scott is the guy that I think they're holding out for. And in the meantime, they got time on their hands. Let's just keep interviewing guys just to make sure nobody else knocks our socks off. We'll see what ultimately happens. For all of our sakes, let's just hope the Seahawks lose on Sunday. Let's just hope they lose. Carl Scott becomes available, and we'll then know, right? We'll know at that point if he is their guy or not. Because if they request another interview with him in person, then because that's a second interview. At that point, that's very telling, okay? If they lose and we hear nothing on the Carl Scott front, then maybe they're not that interested in him and they're going to continue to go through this process, or they've got someone in mind. I just hope it's not Raheem Morris. He's just kind of lingering, right? I saw today that Raheem Morris was still a candidate for the Arizona Cardinals job opening. I'm like, what are you doing? If Raheem Morris is a finalist for your job opening, then your job opening sucks. But look, whatever we got to do to keep him away from us, I'm all about it, man. Like, I could easily see them go through all of these candidates, get to the very end. Oh, there's Raheem Morris. Interview him and hire him. Like, you did all of this song and dance just to come all the way back around, get to Raheem Morris and hire him. Like, please spare me, okay? And again, I'm not going to be upset if that's what they decide to do. I already told you, I have very low expectations. Lowered expectations for the defensive coordinator hire. Hey, you can't get me riled up. You can only get me fired up if you hire the right guy. But you can't get me riled up. I'm not going to be upset. Not going to be super disappointed because I don't have high aspirations for this hire. I don't have high aspirations for this defense. The only way they can turn around the way that I feel about this defense is if they absolutely knock it out of the park with the defensive coordinator hire, which at this point doesn't feel like it's going to happen. Even if they hire Carl Scott, that's not a knock it out of the park. It's just a guy that I'm excited about. All right, we don't know what he is. You can't knock it out of the park with somebody who's never done it. That would have been a Brian Flores type hire or a Jim Schwartz type of hire, right? But even with that said, I could be excited, but if you don't have the talent, then it doesn't matter. So in conjunction with hiring a guy that makes me excited, you then have to go out and get talent that makes us excited. I think we can compete with. Then and only then will I start to look at this defense maybe differently and say, hey, maybe the defense doesn't have to be one of the worst in the league, doesn't have to be one of the worst in the conference, doesn't have to be the worst in the division. Maybe that doesn't have to be the case. But until something changes, to me, we're one of the worst defenses in the league. We're one of the worst defenses in the conference. And right now, we are the worst defense in the division. I know Dallas might have had that distinction, but they've got more talent than we do on the defensive side of football. We are the least talented defense, not only in the division, you could argue in the entire conference. There are very few teams in the league that have less defensive talent than we do right now. All of our talent lies strictly on the offensive side of football to this point. You got one or two guys that maybe are difference makers on the defensive side. One or two guys that maybe have a bright future. Trey Amos being one of them. Mikey Samer still another if they can figure out where to play him and how to play him. He's the only guy that can force a turnover, it feels like, though. Jordan McGee, young, has some athleticism, but we don't know if he can do this at a high level or not. We haven't seen that on a consistent enough basis to be able to say he is or he isn't. Everything with these guys, small sample size, all of them. I thought we had some guys do some really good things on the defensive line, but injuries took effect and the consistency simply wasn't there. But we're far from a finished product defensively. So I get it. I don't have to like it, but I get why this job isn't highly sought after and why we're still looking. Fingers crossed, we're still looking because we're waiting on Carl Scott. That's the hope. I got that hopium, baby. Let me know if you need a shot. Let me know if you need a dose. I got that hopium, baby. Carl Scott, come on down. We'll see what happens. I'm rooting like hell for the Rams to win on Sunday so that Carl Scott can become available on Monday. And if he is truly the guy, we should hear something soon thereafter, Tuesday, no later than Wednesday, that Carl Scott is interviewing again for the Commanders' vacant defensive coordinator position. And if that happens, I think that's their guy, and they're going to lock him down. If not, Lord help us if Joe Cullen becomes our new defensive coordinator. Joe Cullen's like 67 years old. I kid. I don't know how old he is. He looks like he's about 55, 60 years old, and he's never called to play a day in his life. I'm good. I really don't want to bark up that tree. Please, spare me, okay? Don't want any Raheem Morris retreads. I'm good. Like Teryl Austin, absolutely not. Please. Like, there's not a lot of these guys that they've interviewed where I go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Only one or two. Only one or two. So we'll see. Anyway, I digress. Let's get a word from our sponsor. We'll come back on the other side and we'll get to any comments that you guys may have. And then I will get you out of here. Stay bundled up. Stay inside. If you have to go outside, please be safe. It is cold, especially on the East Coast.
Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all of your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat in the games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips. Play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper.
You ever seen that meme with the baby that's running and then he turns around? Like he's running towards somebody and then just does this little turn and goes the other way. That's how I felt when I went outside to go to the truck this morning. I went outside and I got one of those gust of wind. Woo! Turned my ass around real quick. Told my wife, it's cold out them doors. It's Brick City out there. It's cold, man. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. Ben Schmoder. Been a member for 8 months. Really appreciate you. Ben writes, hit a Defenders game with me, Lou. Schedule's out. Look, I don't even leave my house for Commanders game. You really think I'm going to a Defenders game, Ben? I appreciate your persistence, though. If there's one thing I love about you, Ben, is you're persistent. And I love someone who is persistent, consistent, and doesn't give up. But I'm going to have to say, that's going to be a no for me, dog. Going to have to pass, Ben. Thanks. Lion Ace. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Lion Ace writes, what's up, Commander-in-Chief? Shout out to Gabe Simo. Season loaded. You got jokes. I heard your jokes. Left hand up. Oh, no. You put all of those in one quick little sentence. That was nasty work right there. Man, nobody with an ish wants to come here. You're not wrong. I don't think. Okay, let me rephrase that. Nobody that has options wants to come here. If you're not a defensive coordinator or you don't have a job and you're looking for one, then you want this job. Anybody that has options doesn't want this job. Like Brian Flores took the interview probably off the strength of out of respect for somebody in the building, or he was just trying to use it as leverage to try to get something done with a team like Minnesota. Like, hey, I got options out here in these streets, man. I'm interviewing. I'm hot. I'm heavy in demand. I got an interview with Washington. I got another one here with this team. I got another one with this team. If you don't sign me up quick, man, I'm going to go ahead and take one of these joints. Like, he might have used us as a leverage ploy, but ain't nobody with that kind of a resume chomping at the bit to get to Washington, bro. We are stingy with paying out talent. Our talent is dirty dishwater. DQ is a bum on defense. That's pretty harsh. That's pretty harsh. But, I mean, DQ, again, his track record preceded him coming here. Seems like we're the reverse car wash when it comes to defense. You come into Washington with a pristine or at least a respectable defensive track record, and then you come here and your shit goes to hell in a handbasket, right? Before coming here, Jim Haslett had a pretty respectable resume as a defensive play caller. He left here and he was asked. I don't think he got work in the league again after he left here as the Commanders or then Redskins defensive coordinator. We saw what happened with Jack Del Rio. That was it for him, right? Same could be said for Joe Witt. He'll never get another shot to be a defensive coordinator in this league. And DQ came here with all kinds of respect. And right now, we got people like yourself thinking that DQ doesn't know a damn thing about defense. So maybe it's just the organization. We just can't get right on defense. And Part of the reason is because we've done a poor job of assembling talent on that side of the ball. The last time we had a truly talented group was when we had 4 first-round picks on the defensive line with Sweat, Payne, Allen, and Young. And I think they were overrated, but they were talented. That's one thing you can't say that they weren't talented. They were first-round picks for a reason. I think they were overrated, but they were talented. And nobody ever truly maximized those guys and what they could actually provide. So we really haven't had a ton of talent here in Washington. And unless Adam Peters has an off season for the ages, that's going to continue to be the case here in Washington. So it makes it tough when you don't have the horses, because I don't care how good of a coach you are. You're only as good as the players that you're coaching. And you can maximize the talent that you have, and if it's not great talent and you're able to squeeze the rag and get every drop out of it, great. That proves your weight as a defensive coordinator, which I said last year, DQ had a chance to show us what he was really about with all the injuries. If you're a really good coach, you find a way to navigate that and not have the season fall apart. We went 5-12 with losses where we were getting our brains bashed in for a month straight. Every game we lost by 3 touchdowns or more. Like, this season literally fell apart at the seams, and DQ didn't have the answers to stop it. That shows me that he's not an elite coach. At best, he's a solid NFL head coach, and that's cool, but you always want better than that. Ben Jones, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Ben writes, I knew you was going to be on one with them still interviewing people like the Steelers DC. Yeah, that one kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Teryl Austin was like, I was like, what? What? Teryl Austin? That, again, when they interviewed shucks. Al Harris. I don't know why I blanked on his name. When they interviewed Al Harris, that was an intriguing interview. Like, okay, all right, yeah, I see what you're doing there. Teryl Austin, you're like, wait, what? Wait, whoa. What are we doing right now? What is this? Can't get jiggy with this shit. What am I supposed to do with Teryl Austin? That got me a little worried. That made me think, is DQ having a hard time finding someone wanting to sign up for this gig? Because Teryl Austin feels like you're venturing into the desperation territory. Al Harris feels relevant. Teryl Austin feels desperate. Like you're venturing in that space. It's a fine line between interesting and desperate, and feels like we're kind of teetering. We could go either way right now. Wasn't really too excited and enthused by that news that we interviewed Teryl Austin. Lang Hughes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, patience. B-Flow and Albrick went back to their respective teams. LOL, who have we missed out on? No one's been scooped up. Got to let the process play out. And that's one way to look at it. Is just continue to be patient, continue to go through the process, continue to see what's out there, leave no stone unturned. And that may be them just completing the due diligence of the process, to your point. And you may be 100% spot on. 100% spot on. Joshua Farish, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Joshua Farish writes, it's so crazy we are talking this way after the 2024 season. 2024 feels like an eternity ago, bro. Like, that ship sailed feeling like this is crazy. That ship sailed during the season when we were in the midst of getting our backs kicked in 4 weeks in a row by 3 touchdowns or more. I lost that feeling of 2024 and all the warm and fuzzies that came with that season, and thinking that we would never be in this position again, or at least not in the foreseeable future. All of that went out the window. around week 11 or so, week 10 or 11, whatever the Lions game was, or was it the Seahawks game? Which one came after? I think the Lions was week 9, and then Seattle was week 10, and then the Dolphins were week 11. I think I might have it reversed, and it may be the other way around, but whatever the case may be. No, it was the other way around. Seattle came first because Jaden got hurt, and then that forced. I don't think so. It might be the other way around. I feel like Seattle was first. It was week 9. Detroit was week 10, and then Miami was week 11, and then we had our bye in week 12. I'd say around the Seattle game is when it, like, there was conversation about. I spread all the hopium out on the table in front of me, and I had a plan on how I was going to inject it, and I had started to spread the word. I got free hopium, hit me up, and the Jaden injury coupled with before he got hurt. Remember, we were getting our asses handed to us before he got hurt. Like, it was the worst game we had watched this team. It gave us flashbacks of the 2023 game versus the Bears in the first half. Like, it was so bad, that first half versus Seattle. Like, shit, it was bad. That's when all of that 2024 shit for me went out the window. Like, what the fuck am I watching right now? This isn't even real football. We're getting our asses handed to us. And Seattle's not even like that. It turned out that they were like that. But at that time, they weren't like that. They got Sam Darnold at quarterback. What is happening right now? Who is this practice squad receiver that just caught a 55-yard touchdown on us? What is going on right now? Yeah, that's when the whole 2024 thing went out the window for me. So this isn't crazy. This is just who we've been, right? No consistency. There's been no ability to feel like we've built something that's sustainable. We always feel like we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And after 1 year of Jaden Daniels coming in here and making us feel like we figured it out with a great staff, this, that, and the third, we're back to kind of square one again. Now, I will say this. I think they nailed it with Jaden Daniels, but I saw something that was very, very troubling, and it I'm not gonna lie to you, spooked me to my core. A Texans fan had a tweet. He said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, but his tweet was, thinking you have your franchise quarterback, thinking you have a transcendent franchise quarterback, only to find out that he's not, is one of the worst feelings I've ever felt as a fan. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And all I could think of was us. Because he was talking about CJ Stroud, of course. Like, CJ Stroud's basic. I was never a CJ Stroud fan, to be honest with you. He wowed me in his rookie season because I wasn't a CJ Stroud fan. Now, he did some things in that final game in his collegiate career versus Georgia that kind of changed the narrative. Oh, shit, CJ's an athlete. He can move. He don't really want to run. And if you put pressure on him, he'll do stupid shit with the football, and we've seen that. Right. That said, CJ could end up being, really solid, but there's limitations because he refuses to be an athlete. He refuses to run. There's limitations on what he can be. And when you get a guy that panics under pressure, it just never goes well. I'm like, that's not going to be us. But what started to creep into my mind at that point? Like, oh, shit. That would be the worst feeling ever, bro. I could only imagine. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to feel that. Because even with Robert Griffin III, there was this even with Robert Griffin III, there was this sense that as good as he was in his rookie season, the injury kind of put you in a state of, all right, is he ever going to be the same? And then he never was, right? The shit just fell apart. We start hearing things that whole offseason about what he wasn't going to do, what he is going to do. You know, it just turned messy. Like, we never really got a chance to enjoy that whole thing. This one's different because Jaden's a good dude. He gets it. And Robert never won a playoff game. Like, he got injured before he could do that. Jaden took us all the way to the NFC Championship game. Like, he did things that we just haven't seen here in a very long time. Stroud never took the Texans to the championship game. Now, he's won a playoff game every single season of his career, but the fact that we're having this conversation means that we're right back to where we were before, except we've got a quarterback, and that's the only difference. They've got to change the narrative because even those draft classes, they haven't been super impactful. That 2024 draft class was supposed to be the foundation of what we would be standing on right now. And it doesn't feel like that. None of those second-round picks feel like difference makers. Those third-round picks right now don't feel like needle movers. You had 6 picks in the first 100, and right now you've just got Jaden Daniels really to show for it. Again, this has to be a tremendous offseason for Adam Peters, for Dan Quinn. Those guys that they drafted in 24 have to take a big step this year. Those 2025 guys need, that doesn't have to be a massive step, but we need to see improvement from them as well. Actually, the 2025 class was pretty impressive last year, considering the circumstances. If they continue to grow, we got something with those guys. But the 24 class left a lot to be desired. And even after their rookie campaigns, you felt good about what they were able to contribute. But like with Mikey, for instance, he was really good. But I'm like, is that fool's gold? Because he was playing outside. Mikey can't play outside. And when he played in the slot, and I remember bringing this up to you, when he played in the slot in his rookie season, he got cooked. He was getting cooked. Brandon Coleman was our starting left tackle. We like, yeah, we can do better. If they're changing this, we talked about Darnell Stapleton. They're changing this whole blocking scheme. Coleman probably is your starting left guard. We'll see if he can get back in there and make a difference. Luke McCaffrey has carved out a niche as a returner. Can he help as a receiver too? We'll see. But Ben Sinnott hadn't been it. Johnny Newton hadn't been it. So, yeah, I get it. At the same time, it's like, let's just see what the future holds, man. 2024 feels like eons ago. I'm going to be honest with you, especially after what we did last year. It feels like eons ago. Mr. Deacon, sir, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Deacon, sir, writes, thing is, who's out there? We interviewed everybody. What hurt is Albrecht going back to Atlanta. Not sure if it guarantees Scott, but we'll see. I mean, there may not be any great candidate names out there, but at the same time, the list of guys that exist have to be, like, for instance, the Cowboys hired Christian Parker. We don't know a lot about him, but would you have been more excited about him than Teryl Austin? Yeah, probably. Would you have been more intrigued about him than Joe Cullen? Probably, but I don't know. Maybe you feel the same way about Joe Cullen. I say all that to say this. There has to be some guys out here that are on someone's staff. If you're going to go with the unknown commodity, the guy that's never called a play before, there's got to be a guy on some staff, on some defense that's been absolutely lights out this season. It's got to be a guy on that staff that gets you excited. Instead of all these retreads who haven't had massive success in the league. Don't talk to me about Patrick Graham doing a great job with the Raiders defense last year. That's cool. I mean, the Raiders were still ass on defense last year. That's cool, but I'm supposed to be excited about that because he was okay. He wasn't the worst. I'm supposed to be excited about Denard because the Titans were solid on defense last year. Like, no, that doesn't get me excited. So to your point, are there great options out there? Probably not. But even if there were, they wouldn't want to come here. That's the point. They wouldn't want to come here. So they have to be creative, which is why I want Carl Scott. You got to think outside the box. Lang Hughes, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes? Also could be interviewing for other positions too. You talking about on our staff, or I'm not following what you're saying. Are you saying that they could be interviewing other candidates for other positions that are available? We don't really have a lot of positions available on our staff, right? Like it's defensive coordinator. They already filled up the offensive line and assistant offensive line coaches. Same with the quarterbacks coach, right? Already hired a quarterbacks coach and assistant quarterbacks coach. This is the only vacancy that remains. So assuming that that's what you were referring to, you may be talking about something totally different. And I might have, misunderstood what you were saying. Renell Winchester, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Renell writes, too many fans have PTSD from decades of bad coaching. DQ is better than many are making it out to be. We need years to build out a roster. This is a good year to get more talent. I remain hopeful. Here's the thing, Renell. You're not wrong. I actually think DQ is better than people are giving him credit for. I'm not telling you he's a great coach. I think I lost the faith in DQ's ability to be a great coach last year. That last year really hurt in terms of him being a great coach. What I do think is he is a solid coach, and I think people are underrating him and making him a terrible coach that needs to be gone and fired. And I don't think that's what DQ is. Here's what he's not. DQ is not some young, innovative head coach that moves the needle. DQ is not a guy that can take a severely under-talented team and maximize them and make them a middle-of-the-pack squad. He just showed that this past year. But what DQ has shown, and if you give him enough talent, if you give him a star quarterback, that he can take your franchise very far. He did it with the Falcons. He did it with us. And so if we can find a way to get enough talent on this roster, stay relatively healthy, DQ has shown the ability to take that talent and get it to the biggest game that exists. Now, he didn't win it in Atlanta, but they were up big and they should have won. And we had a shot with a much less talented roster in 2024. So I'm with you. DQ's, he's better than people are making him out to be. And yes, it does take a while to build a roster, but 2024 happened. We can't exist and act as if 2024 isn't a thing. That happened, and whether you like it or not, the reality of that situation is it sped up his process. That's what happens when you have immediate success. It's literally a gift and a curse. And right now, it's a curse for DQ, unfortunately for him, because of the way 2025 went, following up that season that we'll never forget. Joshua Farish, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Joshua, double up, thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I do miss seeing that NFC Championship backdrop, though. Don't we all? Like, I had to pinch myself that year, seeing that backdrop, seeing my favorite players and coaches talking in front of a backdrop that said NFC Championship game. It's wild stuff, man. Wild stuff. I need that in my life again. NKTRR, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I think we're waiting around for Carl Scott, but where's the backdrop? I hope you and yours are good, man. Glad to be a part of the mob. Glad to have you as a part of the mob. And get my life together, man. Slowly but surely. I hope they are waiting around for Carl Scott. I've got my fingers crossed, as I've said already. That's what I'm telling myself. I might be lying to myself, but when you got hopium in your veins, you always are super optimistic, and that's what I am right now. Carl Scott, babe. Carl Scott or bust for me right now. That's where I'm at with mine. That's where I'm at with mine. The Commandalorian 2026. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, hold up. We got to say it in the Martin voice. For this interview. So, Lou, Ruben Bain, if Bailey is off the board, or would you go Reese over Bain? I got a lot of work to do, man. Because I've got questions. Like, I think Ruben Bain is a junkyard dog. I think Rio used that term, and I think that's the perfect way to describe him. He plays with a relentless energy. He's very skilled, but he's undersized, man. Like, I can't get past that. He plays so hard. He hustles. He's really athletic, but he's small. His arms are short, and I just don't know if that works at this level with the elite level athletes he'll be facing on a week-to-week basis. I've got too many doubts about him. But again, I would love to add a guy like Ruben Bain, just not at number 7. You gave me a chance to draft Ruben Bain in the second round. I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because I think he's Brandon Graham. But I'm not drafting Brandon Graham 7th overall. I'm just not doing that. So I'd have to see, what's available to know what I would do at 7 if some of the guys that I would like to see them draft aren't available. I'm not a big Arvell Reese guy, but again, I have to watch more film on him. But just based off of what I saw, I'm not a big Arvell Reese guy. He didn't blow me away. Brandon Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Brandon writes, Lou, blink twice if you are okay. Once if you need special forces to come in. I'm good. I'm good, bro. I promise you, I'm good. I haven't been abducted. This is not a hostage video. I'm good. I swear. Joshua Ferris, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Joshua writes, going on record to say with the new offensive coordinator and the new O-line coach, the 2024 class will shine more. I hope you're right. For not only our sakes, but for Adam Peters' sake, because it got dark for him last year. It was unfortunate. I told you losing sucks because of what comes with it. Like pretty much 90% of the fan base turned on this guy. And I'm like, y'all can't do that after, 1 year. I actually think the 25 draft class provided exactly what they drafted them to provide. The problem was they provided the things that we needed this team to have in 2024. And for the 2025 season, we needed so much more. And that's not what they drafted those guys to do. They drafted those guys to fill in the gaps of the things that we didn't have in 24. Like, for instance, you spent a 4th round pick on a kick return or on a punt returner, basically. Well, he was dynamic. If you would have added a guy like Jalen Lane, in 2024, do you know how dynamic we would have been? He scored 2 touchdowns on special teams. We could barely get 10-yard returns in 2024 with all the guys that we were putting back there to field punts. Are you kidding me? Like, that's what they drafted him to be. Do you know how much better? And again, I know that basically Josh Connolly and Brandon Coleman were one and the same in their rookie seasons, but they left Josh Connolly Jr. basically on an island at times. His rookie year, they weren't leaving Brandon Coleman by himself at all. They were chipping just about every time we dropped back and knew we had to throw the football. Could you imagine if you would have had that kind of confidence in your tackles? We were chipping on both sides in 2024. You know what I mean? So they felt like, okay, we go get a guy. Now we can get all our eligibles out on the route. We got a guy that we feel comfortable. And Josh Connolly Jr. played really well in his rookie season, by the way. Trey Amos, could you imagine having that guy in 2024 help us at the cornerback position? Bro, we were putting Michael Davis and Benjamin St. Juste on the field in 2024. Could you imagine Trey Amos with the defense? Again, the defense was terrible in 24, but he would have made it better. These are all things that they were, the things that they were thinking when they made those picks. And then everything went haywire. So those guys weren't allowed to shine and star in those roles that they were drafted to star in. They had to go in and play vastly different roles. So that 2024 class, the spotlight's on them this year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Ben Sinnott has to come to the forefront this year. Johnny Newton has to come to the forefront this year. They got to figure out where they're going to play Mike Sainristil. Brandon Coleman has to show that he has some sort of value other than a, jumbo package tackle that they bring in as an extra offensive lineman. We have to see this group take shape and actually have an impact other than Jaden, or else that 24 class is a dramatic, epic failure. I hope you're right, because this is a big year for that 2024 draft class. Big year. Mr. Deacon, sir, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Mr. Deacon, sir, right. I agree, though. Just saying, not many options. Give me Carl Scott. And you're not wrong. Like, there aren't a ton of options that, again, that's why I told you from the jump, not a lot of these guys were going to move the needle for me. So, because there's not a lot of options that would, necessarily be something that would make me excited. And then, again, kind of not to be the dead horse, but this is not the most desirable job that exists. And so you could argue this is, if you're just strictly going off of the defensive side of the football, you could argue this is the worst job. Most of the jobs that are available have at least one defensive stalwart, one linchpin guy that you can say, I can work around. I can build around this guy. I can do something with this guy. Right? We got nothing. There's no Max Crosby here. There's no Jeffrey Simmons here. There's no Brian Burns here. Right? There's no Quinnen Williams here. These are all jobs that were vacant, that have defensive coordinator needs. Like, we don't have any of that. There's no TJ Watt here, right? Like, there's no Roquan Smith. These are all places that had vacancies. We have none of that. We don't have anything that you can hang your hat on. Every single one of these jobs that had a vacancy, defensive coordinator-wise, they've got a guy, at least one. We got nothing. So I'm hoping it's Carl Scott. But, we'll see what happens. Mamba Fats, been a member for 22 months. Who writes, what it do, bro? What's good with you, Mamba? Says, why is this desperate? Didn't we play all these defensive dudes in the last 2 years? So why not pick their brains on how they coached against us? I don't know. I'm just saying. You're not wrong. I mean, that's one of the underrated parts of an opportunity to interview people is picking their brains. So much goes into these interviews and why you would conduct them. One of the things that we as fans don't often take into consideration is the value that you get from just talking to a guy and seeing why they did some of the things they did against your team, XYZ, et cetera, et cetera. When the draft process happens, one of the things that the coaches and the general managers talk about is they have meetings with some of these prospects that they know they're not going to be able to draft. The guy's not going to be around when I'm on the board, but you do want to get some information on him so that if he ever becomes available as a free agent or the opportunity to trade for him 3 years down the road shows up, you can kind of harken back to that and get some of that information. So yeah, I could see why you want to talk to coaches for those reasons. And that's not something that I actually considered, but that's a really good, valid point. That's a really good way of looking at it too. Something that we probably should consider a little bit more, honestly. The Commandalorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, at this point, Lou, give me Carl Scott or bust for real. Like I said, that's where I'm at. But again, I'm not going to be upset. That's the difference between me and maybe someone out there that makes that statement. I can't say that you would be upset, but I mean, I went into this process not expecting to come away feeling any type of way. Like the needle wasn't going to move at all. And all Carl Scott did was provide me and even Brian Flores for a brief second, even though I knew he was never coming here, just the thought of him taking the interview got me excited. But all those two guys did in particular was they gave me a faint pulse defensively, like, man, maybe, just maybe, this defense doesn't have to be one of the worst in football. But again, there's no guarantees with anybody you hire. I don't care if you hired the best defensive mind in football. You got to go get that guy talent, or else it's not going to work. But at this point, if they don't hire Carl Scott, I'm not going to be super disappointed. I'm just going to go, okay, that's kind of what I expected the defensive coordinator to hire to be. And we're just going to move on. Because in my mind, the offense is going to have to carry this team regardless. Regardless. I'm just hoping that they hire a guy that gets some talent and this defense is just middle of the pack. That would be awesome, because if they could do that with what we think we'll be able to do on offense, and we don't even know what this offense is going to be, but if you give me a healthy Jaden, I'll take my chances. You give me a healthy Jaden and Terry, I'll take my chances. This offensive line we think is going to be good. I think this offense has got a chance to be really good. I'll take my chances. Just give me a defense that's just not a sieve. We'll see what happens. NKTRR, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, I'm excited to see what this offensive scheme is going to be and the offense running it. I personally believe tight end and cornerback is our biggest need. Njoku in DC would be crazy. I was excited about Njoku, maybe 3 years ago before he re-signed in Cleveland. I don't know if I'm as excited. He can't stay healthy either. I don't think, he's very expendable now because they drafted the kid out of Bowling Green last year. He had a really good rookie season. So they don't really need Njoku anymore. He'd be better than anything we have from a pass catching standpoint, but can he stay healthy? That's something he struggled with throughout his career. I'd just rather, if you're going to do something at tight end, I'd just rather go get one in the draft. There are going to be a bunch of them available, or I'd rather you go get one of these other guys that's available at the tight end position. Like, you got Isaiah Likely. He's probably going to follow Harbaugh to New York if the Giants are interested. They got tight ends, but I could see him wanting Isaiah Likely, and that's where he ends up. Kyle Pitts, if he somehow makes it to free agency, which I doubt, but you just never know. You just never know. We'll see what they decide to do. I wouldn't be opposed to Njoku, though. I would not be. I'd take him in a heartbeat. It's better than anything we have from a pass-catching athleticism standpoint. If you can keep him healthy, he's a problem. NKTRR, thank you for being a member for 19 months. Right. My favorite channel on YouTube. I appreciate that. All I ask is that you just continue to support the movement, man. I can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the kid. So big shout out to you, man. Really appreciate you. Appreciate the love. The Commandalorian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Commandalorian writes, Lou, I want a reset in scheme in general on defense. And that's why I don't want to retread. I just want a complete reset. A guy comes in here with fresh thoughts, and really just a different way of doing things. I don't want a continuation of what DQ wants to do, because we know they really want to just play man coverage. They just want to play man, and if they get the pieces in here, that's what they want to do. And I want a guy that's going to mix it up. I want a guy that's smart, that's going to, be challenging. And I'm hoping that Carl Scott is that, or whomever they hire is going to end up being that for us. But I would like a defensive reset too, just like we getting on offense. I didn't ask for the offensive reset. I was cool with Cliff coming back for his third year, but I'm also really intrigued and excited about this offensive reset we about to get with David Blau. This feels great, right? Hope we can say the same about the defensive side of the football. But, we'll see, right? A lot of time still left in this offseason. Offseason really still ain't even gotten underway. We haven't even turned the calendar to February yet. it just feels like everything's moving in slow motion when it comes to this defensive coordinator hire, but it really isn't. Teams are still hiring their head coaches. Dominoes are still falling. We're still seeing, things kind of settle, the dust settling, the smoke clearing. So when it's all said and done, there's still plenty of time to get all this stuff done. But remember, we didn't hire our coach until next week last year, right? Keep this in mind. DQ wasn't announced as the head coach here in Washington until the week of the Senior Bowl. Remember, if you go back to the Commander's log and Adam Peters getting congratulated at the Senior Bowl because of Dan Quinn getting hired. So, it feels, but remember, we were also the last team in the league to hire our head coach. So we're kind of trending in that same direction. Kind of trending again in that same direction. But anyway, I digress. Derek B, my guy. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. What up? What up, though? Derek B, right? Came home Thursday. Blessings on top of blessings on top of blessings, man. We are so glad to hear that you are back home, relaxing, getting back to normal, man. Knew everything would go well. I'm so appreciative of you and what you've brought to this, channel and to the mob and the value that you bring. So glad that you were able to give me the thumbs up. I was able to disseminate that information to everyone, let them know you were good. So just so good to hear from you, man. He says, team won't kill me. Yes, they tried to take you out, man. We can laugh about it now because you had the procedure and you're good. They tried to take you out, bro, but it wasn't your time, man. It wasn't your time. I said defensive coordinator might be hard to fill. Lack of talent, defensive head coach whose system is trash, all in your business. Hard pass for legit defensive coordinator. It is and that's why I said the Teryl Austin hire kind of made me start thinking about all of those things. This isn't a desirable location. If I had options, I'm not choosing here, right? If I got options, I'm not choosing. If I have options as a head coaching candidate, I'm not choosing Cleveland, right? There's certain spots where I'm just no, I'm good. I appreciate it, but I'm good. If I got defensive coordinator options, I'm not choosing Washington. All of those things you just said, and then add on top of that, you could get fired next year. You could be one and done. You could be packing up your family to come to DC for 1 year because DQ could get fired next year. There's a lot fundamentally that isn't in alignment with landing a legitimate defensive coordinator candidate, which is why I'm excited about a Carl Scott, because you may be able to unearth a gem, a diamond in the rough, just because he hasn't been given an opportunity yet, which is what Dallas did with Christian Parker. They're just trying to see if they can unearth a gem. Because all of these other dudes out here, they don't move the needle. Jonathan Gannon, Dallas interviewed him too. I'm good on Jonathan Gannon. Dallas clearly was good on Jonathan Gannon as well. We good. These retreads aren't inspiring. Go get you one of these young boys who ain't never did it before and get them a shot and see what they can do. That's the type of time I'm on. So good to hear from you, Derek B, man. So glad to hear that you're home and that you're safe and hopefully you're feeling better. And little by little, you'll start to, be yourself again, get back on your feet, moving around, and back to being the Derek B we all come to know and love. But so good to hear from you, my guy. With that said, that's the last super chat. I didn't mean to interrupt your Saturday, but I did want to show my face. I, did want to come talk to y'all about some of the happenings or lack thereof surrounding this team, kind of where we are. We'll keep, I'll keep you abreast of everything that's going on. And I'm now starting to get back to some level of normalcy on my end. So hopefully I'll be able to be a little bit more consistent. You'll obviously see me tomorrow because we've got 2 championship games. If you're interested in that, I know as Commanders fans, you might not give a damn about that, but as an NFL fan, you're going to be watching those games. I always tell you, even if you're just a Commanders fan and you could care less, it's always good to watch what the best teams in the league have to offer because it always shines a light on the things that you don't have and what you need. And so if nothing else, watching these games provides a little context as to what this team should be after, what they should be looking to try to accomplish. We were once these teams just a year ago. It was us playing in this game. Feels like an eternity ago, but it was just a year ago. Anyway, I digress. You guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely Monday. But we're back like cook crack, and hopefully they'll be filling this defensive coordinator position soon. I got my fingers crossed. It's Carl Scott, as I've said numerous times, and I'm hoping Seattle loses tomorrow so we can expedite this process. If it is, in fact, Carl Scott, whatever the case may be, we will see. You know what it is, though. Post up. Take command. Stay warm. It's cold as hell outside, as I already mentioned. Bundle up if you got to go outside. Do not throw your back out trying to shovel that hard white. All right. And if you don't have to go anywhere, don't. Stay safe. Stay warm. Blessings to any of you out there who that just a real blessings and prayers up to those who don't have shelter, man. I feel for people who are out there. It is bitterly cold outside. So I pray for those people. But in any event, you guys have a good one. NKTRR, big shout out to you. 5 brand new memberships courtesy of NKTRR. Stand up. You guys are the newest members of the MOBB courtesy of NKTRR. Really, truly do appreciate you and your generosity. Can't thank you enough. And I look forward to chopping it up with each of those new members, courtesy, once again, of NKTRR and his generosity. Really appreciate you, NKTRR. Brand new members of the family, all because of you. So with that said, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. And I look forward to chopping it up with you. And hopefully the next time we speak on a Commanders front, we'll be talking about a defensive coordinator hire. If not, we'll be talking about, some other things that they might have done, more, interviews or some other things that may have transpired with this team. We'll see. But in any event, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless and good night. Peace. Stay warm.